Now let's dive a little bit deeper into materials and take a look at the physical material. Now the physical material is quickly becoming the new standard material for 3ds Max, and that's because it works with a lot of the physically realistic renderers, including third-party renderers. So let's go back into our material editor. I'm going to go into my compact material editor here. And as you can see, we pretty much have the same setup as before. So I'm going to create some materials for this chair. So I'm going to go ahead and select this material slot. And instead of a standard, I'm going to go ahead and click on this and go down into Materials General, and we're going to select Physical Material. Now when I do this, notice how this shader ball changes a little bit. And we also have our physical material controls, which are very different than the ones for the standard material. Now this physical material has a number of things that we can do. We have two modes. We have standard and advanced, and we're going to play with standard right now. And then we also have a number of presets that we can use for various types of materials. So if you really want wood or metal or something like that, we can do those. I'm going to click off that. We're not going to use a preset right now. So let's go through some of the basic parameters. The first one is a clear coat parameter. So if you're doing something like a car or a paint or something like that, sometimes you'll want a layer on top of your surface, and that's the clear coat. But we're going to just work with basic parameters. So the base color and reflections. Now this is very different than what we saw with the blend material, but it still works quite well. So let's go ahead and give this a base color. So I'm going to go ahead and just dial in a basic color here. And then I'm actually going to select this and apply my material. So as you can see, it shows up in my viewport here. Now we have a couple of controls here. The first is the metalness and the roughness. So the metalness is the amount of shininess, and the roughness is the spread of that shininess. In other words, how much of a pinpoint do we have on the light? So if I'm going to dial up my metalness here, and I bring my roughness up just a little bit, anything above 0 will give you something. So this will give me kind of a very plasticky or metally kind of highlight. And as that roughness goes up, you can see how it softens out again. So if I bring my metalness up and my roughness up, you can see how I'm getting kind of a metal material. But if I bring my metalness down and my roughness up, you can see how I'm starting to get a soft material. Now we also have an index of refraction. Now this is mostly for if the material is transparent, but typically I set this at 1 anyways, and that makes sure that there is no scattering of light that we don't want. Now in addition to this, we also have transparency, so we can make the object transparent. And when we do that, this is where that index of refraction comes in. So you can make it positive or negative lens effects. We can also change the depth of the transparency as well as turn on thin-walled refractions. Subsurface scattering is a great way to simulate effects such as skin or marble. And what it does is it reflects light from deeper within the surface. So the actual surface itself is semi-transparent and light is passing into the surface and coming back out. Now we also have emission, which allows us to make it seem like a light bulb. Now with this, emission defaults to white. So if we want to, we can left click and drag any map or color and just drop it over that. And it'll ask us if we want to copy or cancel. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that. And as you can see now, that emission turns green. Well, I'm going to go ahead and turn that down. Now just like with the standard material, we have all sorts of maps that we can add. Or we can add maps up here by clicking on these little boxes to the right of the parameter. So let's go ahead and put a bitmap into the color channel here. So I'm going to go to base color, click on this, go into bitmap, and select fabric blue from my chapter 5 scene assets images folder. Now when I have this, I can still work with placement just as before, and I still need to go to the parent to see my home material. And if I want to see this in the viewport, I have to click on this button. Now we also have a number of presets that we can use for physical materials as well. So I'm going to go ahead to the next slot and go ahead and select another physical material. In this case, instead of going through the process of changing these values, I'm just going to select one of the presets. So for example, if we wanted, we could do glossy paint, which is kind of nice. We can do polished concrete, but I actually want to use this for the base of the chair, so I want a metal. So I could do polished copper, or I could do something a little bit more like brushed metal. Let's do brushed metal here. So I'm going to go ahead and select that, select the base, and apply it. Now as you can see, we're getting the highlights in the maps that we want. So let's do a quick close-up render just to see what this looks like. Now one thing you'll notice is that physical materials do render a little bit more slowly than the standard materials because they've got a little bit more calculations that have to happen. But on the other side, they're also a lot more realistic. So as you can see, this metal turned out really well. The chair itself, we probably need to add some bump mapping and work with that just a little bit more. But as you can see, this is a really great start for this material. So the physical material is physically correct, and it works best with the physically correct renderers. It will work with all of the 3ds Max renderers, plus third-party renderers such as V-Ray.